In today's session of Divorce Court, Jessica Celestine says each day that passes is a painful memory of her failed marriage to Joseph.
I loved him. I really sincerely loved him. Our marriage was not faithful and honest and true. I admitted that I had an affair on my husband. He told me he did not love me. He did not want to be with me. If he couldn't stand me so much, then why didn't he just leave like I did?
Now Jessica Celestine faces Joseph Celestine in today's session of Divorce Court.
All rise. Court is now in session. Maybelline Ephraim presiding. You may be seated.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. This is the matter of Jessica Celestine and Joseph Celestine. I'm advised that after almost 3 years of marriage and a 2-year-old son, you've decided to separate and end your relationship. Is that right, Ms. Celestine?
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
And why?
My husband wasn't coming home at night, staying out late, and I was working full time, and he wasn't coming home to watch the children so that I had a babysitter to work. And also, there had been a lot of previous...
The children? Is there more than one child?
There's a child that I had by myself that he claimed as his own, who thinks that this is her father.
And how old is that child?
6 years old now.
And he wasn't coming home?
Not at all.
You're paying a babysitter?
I ended up having to quit one job because at the time I expected him home, and he didn't come home. So it was either be fired and have it on my resume or quit my job.
What about that, Mr. Celestine?
It was only 2 times, ma'am.
Only 2 times what?
After I got in the Navy, I couldn't put up with her more, so I had to stay gone for periods of time.
And after you got out of the Navy, you couldn't put up with her anymore?
No, ma'am.
If he couldn't stand me so much, then why didn't he just leave like I did?
Two separate occasions gone overnight?
Overnight.
And that ends a divorce? I mean, that ends a marriage?
No. At that time, after he'd been kicked out the Navy.
Oh,
After
he
was discharged from the Navy 2 months prior to being released. They discharged him from the Navy.
Why were you discharged?
Talking back, arguing all the time.
So if you argue with the Navy superiors, I can imagine what you did with your wife. So you argue with her too?
Not really. She did most of the talking.
Well, how long were you in the Navy?
2 years and 10 months.
So most of the years of the marriage, you weren't there because you were in the Navy?
Yes, ma'am.
So you had 2 years and 10 months not to have to deal with your wife?
But she was cheating on me during those 2 years and 10 months.
How do you know?
Because she told me, and I found out from friends.
Okay.
What?
Let me explain something.
Please.
I admitted that I had an affair on my husband.
When he was in the Navy?
Wait a
I
second.
cruised for 6 months, ma'am.
He have a letter here stating he told me he did not love me, he did not want to be with me, and I consider it cheating because he was trying at that time. He was away from me. You know what I'm saying? He was telling me he didn't want to be with me, and then I had the affair. And
he
then
sent you the letter while he was in the Navy?
One of the letters I have, the letter that I brought was while he was in boot camp. This is just the beginning of our marriage that calls me names, that is rude to me. This is why, what I'm saying is the marriage progressed.
Let me see the letter.
Bring it up to you, ma'am?
No, the bailiff will give it to me.
You might not want to read it out loud in court.
Well, I think I'm capable of making that decision.
May I say something while you're reading?
I think I can listen while I read.
Okay. That letter, like I said, is not why he was on cruise, why I had the affair. That's just showing you at the beginning of our marriage how mean and cruel his words can be. If he's telling you that he was nice to me, if you read that letter, the names I was called in that letter, that's just the beginning of our marriage. As time went on, it progressed to be even worse. I had an affair. I admitted it to my husband. He had had previous affairs, and he knows this. He had had a lot of affairs. Our marriage was not a marriage that was faithful and honest and true, and that's part of the reason we're separating. It's best for us not to be together.
Yeah, he's calling you some names like the B word, and most of all, he's saying to you that you won't write him every day.
I write him.
And he sent you the stamps. And
if you read it, it says I write him every other day. I worked a full-time job. He writes in there that I write him every 2 days. If you read the beginning, I think that's the one. I got a letter every 2 days. I worked a full-time job. I had a daughter who was 6 years old, but previous to him going into the military, the longest stint he worked while being married to me was 1 week.
So your real problem is that he doesn't work?
Money.
Is that why you want to end the relationship?
No, that's not why. It's the final straw. It was the end of the relationship. I think that 3 years with a man who calls me names like that, who, you know, doesn't come home at night and doesn't work and has 2 children, that is a major factor. If money is such a problem, you should have worked.
I have a question. Were you in the Navy?
Yes, ma'am.
For 2 years, 10 months?
Yes, ma'am.
When you were in the Navy, were you working or playing?
I was working.
Is that considered a job?
Yes, ma'am.
That's what I thought.
I supported her for 3 years.
Now, when she was in the Navy for 2 years, 10 months, you didn't call that working?
Oh, I do. I'm saying he did work. But previous to that, the reason he joined the Navy is because he couldn't get fired from the Navy or quit the Navy. And that was our agreement, that he would go into the Navy. I had a full-time job prior to him going into the Navy. I was working once again, paying all the bills.
He wasn't working?
He was not working very long.
So I'm going to ask you the same question you asked him. If he didn't like you so, why didn't he quit you then? My question to you is, if you didn't like the fact that he wasn't working before he went into the Navy, why didn't you leave then?
Because I was giving him a chance. I was giving him the chance to, and I loved him. I really sincerely loved him. And I also felt like, Your Honor, unfortunately, I felt like I needed him for some reason. That's the unfortunate part. I felt at that time I had low self-esteem, and sometimes you can see why I have so low self-esteem. I felt like I needed him. I don't feel like I needed him.
So did you feel like you needed him until you found somebody else?
I didn't find somebody else. I admitted to him the affair and never spoke to that person again. I did not find nobody else.
She didn't admit to me. She lied to me for 2 days, man. I had to hear from a friend, and then I confronted her, and then she told me the truth.
So didn't you forgive her for having the affair?
I didn't forgive her, but...
So why'd you go back home?
Because that's how I was raised, man.
How were you raised?
Divorces aren't right.
So you went back home to make it work?
Yes, ma'am.
And she said she stayed to make it work?
That's what she said, man.
But now both of you are saying it's not working?
It won't work, never work again, ever.
Let me hear from this witness before she falls off her seat. Step forward, step forward. What is your name?
My name is Tamika Cosme.
Tamika Cosme?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now what, Tamika Cosme, can you add to this?
I can vouch for Jessica. Jessica did work 2 jobs. Jessica would call me almost every day, crying, telling me how, calling me, asking me if me or my husband has heard from Rock. This is when they moved back to their hometown.
If she and your husband has what?
If me or my husband have heard from Rock. This is when they moved back to their hometown. And I was like, no, he haven't called today. And I'd ask her why, and she'd be like, well, he was supposed to be here a long time ago to keep the kids, and, you know, I'm not going to be able to go to work because I can't find a babysitter and this and that, and she would have to catch the bus to work.
Rock, where were you?
I was gone at my cousin's house, ma'am.
Gone doing what?
Just hanging out with my cousins.
Just hanging out?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you know your wife needed a babysitter?
Yes, ma'am.
So were you working?
No, ma'am.
So why weren't you there taking care of the baby so she could go to work?
I couldn't put up with her no more, man.
I wouldn't be
Okay, you wasn't putting up with her.
But
She was at work. Why weren't you there?
I still had to hear her mouth. I didn't want nothing to do with her. Nothing.
How could you hear her mouth if she's at work and she wants you to take care of your son?
Because I would still have to go see her, and she would.
Is that why you
trust me,
begged and
ma'am.
pleaded to stay?
So then why didn't you just end the marriage?
I should have a long time ago, ma'am. My mistake.
Sounds like you were just being irresponsible and now you're just making an excuse for it. What you say?
Yeah, that could be it, ma'am.
Let me hear you say it.
I was being irresponsible.
Oh, okay. Now stop blaming her for it.
When divorce court returns, will Joseph's testimony rattle Jessica?
I'm just trying to figure out why you take it with you everywhere you go.
I have fun doing it.
More fun than being with your wife?
Yes, ma'am.
More fun than taking care of her?
If you would like to have the judge hear your case in divorce court, call us toll-free at 1-877-311-2222 or email us at www.divorcecourttv.com. Divorce Court is back in the case of Jessica Celestine, who's divorcing her husband Joseph because she says she no longer needs him.
Your Honor, can I tell you something? I can pretty much tell you what he was doing at his cousin's house.
What was he doing?
See that thing right there? It was always gone with him.
That little gray box?
That $129.99 gray box. That PlayStation.
What is that little gray
This was never
box?
gone with me. I used Patrick's.
What was it?
It's a PlayStation, ma'am.
I'm saying that PlayStation was his wife. It was more like his wife than I was.
Is that
it would
right?
travel with him wherever he
So
went.
why do you want it so bad then if you know it's me
The
so much?
PlayStation was your wife?
Huh?
The PlayStation was your wife?
No, ma'am. It's just a hobby.
Just a hobby. Hobbies you deal with every now and then. How often did you play with the PlayStation?
Every day.
Every day?
Every day, man.
How many hours a day?
All day, Your Honor. Can I say it? I know because my husband played with him. That's
Because
how I
your
know.
husband played with
We
you.
could not go to her house without that thing.
We would have to conversate. We would have to basically leave the house, and they just be, yeah.
She can
we'd have to
testify too
leave.
because she was there with us.
You never see
Rock.
without the PlayStation. It's like a ID card or something.
Oh, really? Well, that's your calling card?
No, ma'am.
I'm just trying to figure out why you take it with you everywhere you go.
Because I have fun doing it.
More fun than being with your wife?
Yes, ma'am.
More fun than taking care of.
That's all right. That's all right. That's why he
What's
didn't
wrong with
leave.
that?
Okay, that's why he didn't
What's wrong
leave.
with
That's why
that?
he cried when I asked
Well,
him to
did you?
sit
He
not
said
to
that
go.
very emphatically.
Yes,
Yes,
he did.
ma'am.
And Your Honor,
The most emphatic thing you've said all day.
Most
No
honest
question
thing,
about it. You
really.
like that PlayStation,
and
right?
Your Honor, he's serious about
Yes,
it.
he
He's
is.
serious. He's serious.
Now, since he plays it all the time, it means that you don't play it.
I have other things to do. I have children. I take care of our children. I have jobs. I have things I have to do.
So what do you want it for?
You have 2
What do you
jobs.
want it?
Not now. I'm down to a very good job. I work one very good job.
So, you have another witness there. Thank you, Miss Cosby. You want to add something else?
Well, I'll wait for a minute.
Because
No, wait a minute. Wait. You have to understand how this goes.
Okay. Well, I ain't gonna lie. I was getting kind of tired. I'm pregnant. My feet was hurting. But I'll go ahead and talk anyway.
What else you want to add?
What should I tell about the going to the store?
Okay, but I gotta tell about the PlayStation. I was with Jessica when she brought the PlayStation. Me, her, and this is Rashay. We all went
So
shopping.
Jessica bought the PlayStation?
Jessica bought it. Yeah.
With the income tax money we got back after he was off a cruise in February, me and my husband kind of split the money. He gave me some money to go shopping for myself. He already had a PlayStation. He had loaned it out, and it became broken.
Who did he loan it out to, Patrick?
To tell how many long you had it.
We had it for 2 weeks, but it wasn't like that.
That's not
We
the story.
traded my radio so my husband can use his PlayStation because we didn't have one yet.
Can I get back to
And he
But
couldn't
we
go
gave
buy
it back.
one.
We gave it back. It was not broke.
No, they didn't
So
break
what
it.
happened?
It was not
When I
broke.
went on a cruise for 6 months, she let some little kids play with it. They had peanut butter all over the place.
Then why
That's
did
what
she
happened.
borrow it after cruise?
That's what happened.
She brought
But your PlayStation got broken
And eventually something happened to it. It just ain't gonna break. It don't just break like that.
doesn't.
So did you were replacing an older?
That had broken, and it wasn't broken. When he got back from cruise, it worked. It was kind of slow.
Okay, but at some point it broke.
Right, so this
And
is
you
what
bought
happened.
a new one to replace it.
Exactly. He had given me some money to go shopping for myself.
I got that part. You have one other witness.
I have
Great,
Ms.
great.
Rashay. Yes,
Okay, Miss
Rashay.
Cosby needs to sit down. Let me bring
Okay.
the other witness up.
What she's explaining is the same thing.
No. I'll ask the
But I have
question.
another thing to add real quick.
Real quick.
As far as the PlayStation being solely for him, with the income tax return money, something was bought for my son, nothing was bought for my daughter, so I bought the PlayStation for him and my daughter.
No, you didn't.
You
No,
borrowed that
you
game
didn't.
from your
No, you
friend to
didn't.
play
No,
with.
you
Okay,
didn't.
you told me that.
Okay, well, I'm
How
sorry.
many times do you think you have to tell me that?
I'm sorry.
All right. Who's this witness?
Go ahead.
What's your name?
Rashay
Rashay what?
Conley.
And Miss Connolly, what can you add?
She said she was buying him and her daughter a PlayStation, and she got
Why
it
she
from
buy two?
software.
Why
Did
Buy
you
one.
hear what she
That's
said
dumb.
to
That's dumb.
Mr. Celestine
Not
concerning the
until
PlayStation?
we were at their house, and she told him the PlayStation's for both of them.
No, she didn't tell me how much she gave it to me because I took it out of the bag and
she's
hooked it up
talking
myself.
about
She didn't say
another
nothing to me.
day.
when-
My
about it.
question
This
is
is
when
after
she
that.
gave it to him, did you hear what she said?
No.
Okay, thank you. You can maybe see it. Anything else you want to say? Why do you want this PlayStation so badly? You don't play it.
I personally would like it for my daughter because I purchased it for both of them. And one thing is that he right now isn't purchasing anything for my daughter, who he claimed as his own for the whole time we were married. He has nothing to do with her.
So I take care of my son, man. Everything's good.
Okay, well, I'm saying that
Okay,
she
so
thinks
don't
you're her
fix that.
daddy.
She got a daddy, man. Let him take care of her.
I really don't know if this has any significance, but I would like to say that when me and my husband first separated, the first 2 days, we were still on talking terms. Wouldn't you agree?
Just tell me, talk to
Okay,
me.
we were on talking terms, and what happened is that we had a deposit due, and my paycheck wasn't coming till Friday. We had a deposit due on our electric bill. My mother agreed to pay the electric bill on Friday. My husband was to give my mother or me the PlayStation, and I was to give her $75 in cash, but I ended up giving her $100 in cash. She was going to hold the PlayStation in
I
collateral
don't trust
Your
none of
mother
them.
was going to
I don't
have the
trust none of
PlayStation as collateral for the $100 bill.
because she knew how much he left it. She
I
knew
don't
if she
trust
had
none
it, he
of
was
them.
going to pay
so
it.
she
don't
didn't
trust
get the
none of y'all,
PlayStation as her collateral.
No, I paid my mother.
Okay, so now you want it because you paid your mother the $75.
No, what happened?
I paid my mother $100. I was only supposed to pay her $75. He was going to pay her another $75 and give her the PlayStation for collateral. My mother, the
Okay,
first
she
thing-
didn't need the PlayStation for collateral. How much was the bill?
$150.
And that was an electric bill.
An electric deposit bill.
Can I say something, ma'am?
Okay, close it out.
What am I gonna say? When I left the house, I left everything there, furniture, TV, everything. The only thing I took was my clothes and this thing right here. That's it.
Because that's all that mattered to you,
That
huh?
sounds greedy. That's all.
Your clothes and your PlayStation. As long as you...
Nah, but I had my son at the house, and he needs the furniture and the TV and all that stuff, so I left all that stuff there. Everything. The only thing I took was PlayStation and clothes. That's greedy. That sounds greedy to me.
Tell me nothing. I don't have any more questions.
When divorce court returns, the judge renders her verdict.
It's a terrible thing that it happened, and next time you get married, think about it.
And an update on the case of Gwen Hoyle versus Keith Hoyle.
He's threatened by my education.
If you didn't have a degree higher than hers, you couldn't tell her anything.
Divorce Court will be back in session in a moment. Divorce Court is back in the case of Jessica Celestine, who says her husband Joseph spent more time playing video games than with her and their kids.
Come to order. Court's back in session.
Back in the Celestine manner. Mrs. Celestine, it troubles me very deeply that you would accept Mrs. Celestine's daughter as your child and in all respects treat her as your child as long as you were living together and allow her to play with your PlayStation. And then when you get mad at her mother, decide she's not yours, and legally she's not.
I never said, I mean, legally she's not, but I just can't take care of her right now.
Those were your words.
Okay.
And then to take the PlayStation from her. That really troubles me.
I'm not taking the PlayStation from her.
Did I ask you for a discussion?
No, ma'am.
It really just troubles me when you do that, when people do that. These children get hurt by that. They can't distinguish all this. He's not my daddy, he is my daddy. You're in their lives, you're in their lives. And stop playing with their little hearts like that. And Mrs. Celestine, it troubles me that you would allow someone to keep doing that. And I hope that you don't get into another relationship and then that man becomes her daddy. That's not fair to your daughter. And that's what you allow to happen when you keep bringing different people in and out of your life. Don't do that to her. Nor your son now.
I understand.
But more importantly, two people over here yelling over a PlayStation. You know, what you're really trying to do is hurt each other. And all you want is that PlayStation so you can get back at him because that's his life and that was his wife. So since you couldn't be his wife, the PlayStation was, you want it back. It still won't make you his wife. And if you're working so hard and struggling with two children and don't have much money, how are you going to buy the games? The games cost more than the darn PlayStation. All right? The PlayStation is awarded to Mr. Celestine because you can't use this court to punish him for not being a husband, for making this toy more important than you. It's a terrible thing that it happened. And next time you get married, think about it. Maybe you better marry somebody else who likes PlayStations. But you are ordered to reimburse her half the money that she had to pay her mother for the utility bill. The $75 you're ordered to reimburse her. That's the order of the court.
When Divorce Court returns, an update on the case of Gwen Hoyle versus Keith Hoyle.
What I did was for the two of us. We have a brand new Mercedes-Benz. We have a beautiful home. We take luxurious trips.
Closed captioning for Divorce Court provided by. If you would like to have the judge hear your case in Divorce Court, call us toll-free at 1-877-311-2222 or email us at www.divorcecourttv.com. And now for an update on a previous case in Divorce Court. Gwen Hoyle said after marrying her husband Keith, she got her master's degree. But that's when her marriage took a turn for the worse.
He's threatened by my education.
After college, you couldn't say anything to her. If you didn't have a degree higher than hers, you couldn't tell her anything.
What I did was for the two of us. We both have benefited, Your Honor. We have a brand new Mercedes-Benz. We have a beautiful home. We take luxurious trips.
You believe she now has a master's degree, that you're not good enough for her?
She holds it over my head.
Now, I have my degrees, all right? We're equals. As a matter of fact, I got one over you.
Gwen said he stuck around long enough to let her pay for a vacation before dumping her. so she wanted him to pay her back for the plane ticket. The judge denied her request. Gwen has a new man in her life and is planning a vacation to a 5-star Jamaican resort. She's also treating herself to professional golf lessons and is saving to purchase a new Mercedes.
Very, very happy.
I believe it was ours, our family's, not just his. And I think that he was greedy in taking it away from the family.
Lies, lies, lies.
I feel like it was awarded correctly. I'd rather actually have the $75 and I can purchase my daughter the PlayStation and pay my mother back all at the same time. So I think I've learned my lesson.